and we very much appreciate it. This is a big event. Everybody knows and talks about traffic and security and whatnot, but there's so much more behind the scenes, really, that I guess falls to your office, the office of the Senate Sergeant at Arms. What's going on behind the scenes that falls on your desk?
Well, let me say one thing. There's a lot of people here in the Senate and the House involved in this, and the first, probably the primary one, is the JSIC, the Joint Committee, run out of Senate rules. But then each of us parsed down a different piece of that. So as simple as the logistics of parking and access for the members and the staffs that get in here is part of the bread and butter of my office. But then we, like some of the other staff members up here, help get the all our guests and dignitaries in. So what we've been practicing for the last week, and we'll do it today, tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday, is how to get all the VIPs into the building and in position to start on time.
And so how many VIPs do you have coming through?
Well, there'll be about, on the immediate inaugural platform, about 1,500 people. And that is everybody who's who in the U.S. government and some of our allies from around the United States. So the Supreme Court, both the members of the House and the Senate, as well as former presidents and their spouses. So it is a very important group.
And how do you decide who sits where and who gets front row, back row, aisle seats?
Well, blessedly, the Rules Committee does that. So really what happens is the Rules Committee lays down a lot of the mandates. And then our office or the Secretary of the Senate or others help enforce those rules and make the rules work. But clearly, I've got an organization of about 1,000 people. This is not their first inauguration. So there are an awful lot of career people up here on the Hill who have done this year after year after year.
What time will you get to work on Monday?
We'll be here about 3 a.m.
And what time do you think you'll get out of here?
Probably about 9 p.m.
And everybody knows that there's the public swearing in on Monday that'll happen about noon, and then the parade after that. What happens between the swearing in and the parade?
Well, I mean, for instance, as soon as the president is done being sworn in and his speech is over, one of the first things I do is go down and start getting him back up the steps, go up the 2 flights to get him to go across the rotunda to escort the outgoing president. So I'm kind of backing up to 4 years ago when President Obama relieved President Bush. So that's part of the responsibility. What happens now is after the president is sworn in, comes in, we'll go to the president's room on the Senate side, and he'll sign any of the new documents that he's going to sign to get things going. And then the next thing is a big luncheon in Statuary Hall.
So there's, I guess, one less component here this time because there's not an outgoing president?
Correct.
Does that make it a little easier?
Well, it absolutely it does, because there are a lot of the logistics of the helicopter landing, where the military will be, where the snipers are, the counter snipers, the military escorts, the timing of all those things. And I recall 4 years ago, it was very exciting when I came in with President Obama and President Bush. It was really the first time they were off camera. And we walked up the steps, walked up another flight of steps, and just before we went into the rotunda, President Obama said to me, "Chief, can I talk to you for a minute?" And a lot of the members still call me Chief from my police days. "Yes, sir, what is it?" He said, "Can I walk President Bush down to the helicopter?" And I said, "No, sir. You walk him down to the lowest level. You and your bride say goodbye to Mr. and Mrs. Bush, and they go down." There's a slight pause, and the president says to me, "But Chief, can I walk him down to the helicopter?" And I said, "No, sir. You're to walk him down here." Because I'm thinking we've got, all this is rehearsed to the second about how this is going to occur, plus all the security involved in this. So I said no again. And there's a slight pause, and then he said, "But Chief, can I walk him down to the helicopter?" So I guess the lights started to go on then, that obviously he wanted to walk him down to the helicopter, which had not been done before. It wasn't rehearsed. It was what he wanted to do. And I said, "Well, sir, you're the President of the United States. You can do whatever you want to do." And it really dawned on me at that moment. Now, we did a quick switch. We let everybody know how that would be done and accommodated that. But from my perspective, I was the first person in the world to tell the president no, and the first person to roll over under the slightest pressure and say yes. But here's the important part of that, I guess. It was a beautiful event, and I think people who saw it remember how special that was when Mr. and Mrs. Obama walked the bushes down to the helicopter. Hadn't been done before, and it was their moment how he wanted to do it.
And so this time they'll go back, he'll sign the documents, they'll have lunch. And how many people attend that lunch?
Oh, that will be upwards of 200 to 300. I don't have the exact number, but that's many of the members of Congress and some foreign leaders that will be here. Again, the nice thing about that, there's other people organizing that. The concentration of myself and the House Sergeant of Arms is really from a security protocol point of view. And again, everything's very timed because then we're waiting for the big parade that will start on the east front of the Capitol, and then the momentous occasion going down Pennsylvania Avenue.
And tell us about getting the president from here to wherever he begins the parade march. How do you do that? How do you get him into the parade?
Well, that starts from the east front. So he'll go out onto the east front at the upper level and watch the military begin the parade. Then after they leave, his limousine pulls up and pulls out and starts heading down Pennsylvania Avenue. Then what all of the law enforcement types are worrying about, when is he going to get out and walk? Because that presents a whole new challenge to us. And I don't mean to keep going back to the security end of it, but there is a protocol we have to follow in how we're going to take care of Pennsylvania Avenue. And then again, that falls to the Metropolitan Police Department and the Secret Service and the military personnel.
So nobody knows, this is a presidential game time decision as to when he hops out of the limo?
It is, and I recall from the time when Chief Ramsey and I, when we had our first inauguration from the MPD's perspective, that it was, we were giving safety information along with our Secret Service partners as to what the conditions were along Pennsylvania Avenue. And you may remember 4, 8, 12 years ago, there was quite a bit of disorder on Pennsylvania Avenue, and we almost lost a couple of sections of the street. So that dictated what the Secret Service wanted the president to do, but ultimately they get out and walk because they like to do that and the public likes to do that.
And we've been hearing a lot about this time the president will use, I think, 3 Bibles, is that right? So who has the custody of these Bibles? What's the logistics of that?
You know, actually, Mark, I got to tell you, that's not my purview.
Okay.
Luckily. Maybe the Senate chaplain is working on that, but that's the important thing is there are so many ingredients. If anybody could think of a second of trying to have a big party at your house, a graduation, a confirmation, a communion, think of all the things that go into this. There will be some 850,000 people out there, and all these different events have to be tied together. The JSIC, the Joint Committee, the Rules Committee, the Presidential Committee, PIC, they began working on this months and months ago. The architect of the Capitol and building this tremendous stage out here, they started about 6 months ago. So everybody is operating not in a silo. I refer to it as a cylinder of excellence. And we're talking back and forth constantly to make sure each of us has our role.
And then what happens once the president leaves here? Does the deconstruction begin immediately?
That's Miller time when he leaves the Hill, because the pressure shifts to the rest of the city. But from up here, no, the inauguration stays for some time. Many of the members or staff members will bring people out to take a look at it. But there is a collective yahoo when he starts and gets west of 3rd Street that kind of our role is done.
How many calls do you get this time of year for tickets and people and friends and family looking to get to the inauguration?
Well, there's quite a few. Each senator or each congressman and the officers of the House or Senate getting a certain allocation, and it's never enough. So I mentioned we have 1,000 employees. Many of those will be working, but those who are not would love to have the tickets for their family. The best thing we could do is again, Rules Committee allocated me 100 standing tickets. I raffled those off with my employees. We just put the names in a hat and drew them. I am fortunate to have some seated tickets. I've got a son coming in, a sister coming in, and we're happy to get them. A pastor will be down there. So it's nice to give those things out. I have a seat right out on the inauguration platform. My wife has a seat out there. So it actually is pretty darn special.
And what are you hoping for Inauguration Day? Is the weather, what are you keeping your fingers crossed for?
Well, the weather helps us a lot. I mean, obviously, if we have snow, that presents problems to a lot of people. But it is really crowd management. In law enforcement, normally we're working about crowd control and keeping people out. What the Secret Service, the Metropolitan Police, the Capitol Police, and our organizations have talked about how can we get people in? How can we avoid this minor problem we had 4 years ago, significant to about 10,000 people where they got stuck in the tunnel, just to make sure they can get in. So there's been a lot of conversation about people flow. We brought a professor in from Northwestern University who does the crowd control in India for some of their largest events to talk about the psychology of a crowd and the psychology that we ought to have, kind of get out of our cop mode and think more of just facilitators and people helpers. And so the Rules Committee, PIC, JASIC, all of us participated in that. And over the next 3 days, this week before the inauguration, we'll be setting up queuing lines and practicing all the things that we think would help get people in as much as keep people out.
So you get past this, and then what, State of the Union? Is that the next?
Yes, I think we just had the date of the State of the Union, I understand, is February 12th. So we'll begin that. That's another national security event. But it also, again, we work together a lot here. I can't say enough about the Metropolitan Police, the Park Police, the Secret Service, the FBI, the Capitol Police. We're good partners here. We work very, very well. And then all the civilian components of that are important too.
You good? Anything I'm missing here?
No.
Okay.
That's my first actual.
Asking a couple of those questions. Just
What's that?
I widened out a couple times when you were.
That's fine. We'll use what we got. Let's do the second interview.
Do you want to do it in the same spot?
Yeah. There's no reason.
So I don't know, all this important stuff I do. But even tonight, we have this afternoon yet, we have a pre-dress rehearsal meeting, and then tomorrow we'll have a security meeting in the morning, and then Sunday we'll have the complete dress rehearsal.
And when do you start planning for the next one?
That will be the next Sergeant of Arms.
That's his problem, right?
I will start planning for the State of the Union, but this has got to be my last inauguration, unless I'm an invitee.
Yes, one would hope.
But I probably was a handful for Joe.
Well, he really, he got screwed by Fenty.
Some of that stuff can be very short-sighted.
Yeah.
You don't see the value of the great people around
He,
I like smarter people around me.
He really helped me out when I was doing the anniversary of the Hanafi takeover. Were you on the force when the Hanafis took over the Wilson building and shot Marion Bailey? Yeah. So he was very helpful when I did that for the 30th anniversary of that. And I found all these pictures of him from, I guess it was like, what was it, 77 when that happened. And his hair is down, like below his collar.
The last of my brothers to retire from the Chicago Police Department, and these are all nieces and nephew on the Illinois State Police. And this is one of my prizes from Ramsey. I had the slightest fender bender. So he abused his office in government time.
Taxpayer dollars.
And to make this, to give to me, it named me Crash.
Might I take a picture of that?
But my wife says to me sometimes, what are you gonna do with all this stuff when you don't have a big office? And I said, well, I don't know, maybe the grandkids will take it, I don't know. No.
Is that at every department? I mean, is that?
No, it's a little bit, generally, there's auxiliary badges, so you will get one, or
Right.
they may retire the one you wore. Now, when I was a director of the state police, they gave me my badge. Actually, it was the director's badge, but it had a different number, so it was probably like the 4th director's badge that was ever made, because there's only so many originals.
Right.
The Capitol Police, they allowed me to keep my own. Chicago Police, was given, when I retired from there, a substitute badge. So I'll give you, just to show you another thing here. All police departments, you may know, we create badges for the inauguration.
Oh, yeah.
So I put the badge thing, on behalf of my law enforcement partners, put the badges together of various departments and brought it into the Oval Office for presentation.
This is your chief of the Capitol Police at this point?
Yeah. That was all right.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. Did you say?
You know what it constantly do when you see the planes coming in and the Washington Monument, the Lincoln Memorial? So they're able to show people all the way down to the White House down Pennsylvania. I'm pretty lucky.
Now, what are all of these?
You'd have to buy a beer. If you had a coin,
You
then
bought
buy
it, right. Nice.
But you just get them from a variety of different people, you know, like some from the president to the vice president, and the not the goal, the honor of it is to actually hand, and in fact, I'll show you how you do it. And it's just the same and transfer. Again, next time I see you, one of us is gonna get a beer out. And it'll probably work better in the military because, again, back in the old days, you were on the base all the time and you were either at the club together, the enlisted guys drinking a hole, or the chow ball, and that's where you would do that.
Wow, very cool, very cool.
No, it's yours.
Oh, thank
You just
you.
got awarded.
All right, thank you.
Well, you're not gonna get out of a beer heavy.
I'll set you up for this one then. I'll tell.
There's a symbolism of this too.
Right.
That's the protocol.
You can break down.
Okay.
The protocol. At MPD, and you know how that garage is over there.
Yes.
So I'm pulling out of that garage, which is just a difficult place. And a cab, this is a God's honest story. A cab stops me, the first line, and lets me out, and I creep out, and the next line, I kiss, I mean literally kiss the rear end of a cab. So we stop, of course, and I look out, and there's,
Are you in a marked vehicle?
I'm in my Mark Cruiser too.
Yeah.
And he's got a little black paint on there. And again, I've been a policeman long enough, you know, you gotta do traffic action report. So we do the action report, I come back into Chief Ramsey, I said, geez, I had a traffic crash, anybody hurt? No, I told him it was maybe $5 worth of damage. And he said, okay, forget about it. Well, we're brand new. I get out the rule book, and the rule book of the Metropolitan Police at the time was automatic 5-day suspension.
Oh.
So I go back to him, I said, it's a 5-day suspension. And he said, you know, don't worry about that, it was meaningless. I said, God, they're all gonna be watching us, we can't do that.
Right.
He suspended me for 5 days.
Nice.
And then what we did after that is we actually changed the rule to make it, that the punishment had to be a little bit more commensurate with
Right.
the crime, but.
So you started off your career at
I
MPD
did.
being
The
suspended.
first, it's the only time I really consider myself in uniform or policing for 44 years. It's the only suspension I took was from my buddy Ramsey.
Oh, man.